All right, minute or two early, I guess, but you know what? Let's jump in this. Uh, how's everybody doing today? It's Thursday, January 29th. Good morning, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. I see we got some South Denmark already in the chat. Love to see that. Got Alaska. So we're repping continent to continent here, hopefully even further beyond that. I appreciate everybody showing up. I know it's early, but we've got news. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of horrible things happening. We got Germany and Canada in the chat. Got my Jurassic Park cup today, because that's kind of how it feels navigating America these days, like you're going through Jurassic Park in the rain after all of the dinosaurs have been let out of their cages. So I think that's a pretty fun way to think of it if it weren't so gosh darn depressing. But let's jump into it. Yesterday, on Wednesday, the FBI raided an election facility hub in Fulton County, Georgia. This is the beginning of Donald Trump's plot to steal the midterms and whatever future elections he would also like to steal, cancel, or otherwise postpone. Here is what we know, which is not much, unfortunately, about the warrant issued and executed at that Fulton County facility. The warrant gave Trump's FBI access to all records related to suspected record retention and other criminal violations that occurred during the 2020 general election. Those files include all the physical ballots, all tabular tapes from Fulton County's voting machines, all ballot images produced, and all voter rolls from the election. It also includes some startling language about who will have access to review the files recovered during the raid. The warrant says, quote, any government personnel can review the collected data, which may include technical experts contracted to work with the administration. So basically, anybody that Trump says, yeah, they can look at it, they can look at your voting data. There's a lot wrong with that, obviously. First and foremost, this is Donald Trump acting on his own self-created conspiracy that the 2020 election was stolen, which no evidence has ever emerged to suggest that anything close to that even happened. In fact, most of the instances of voter fraud that occurred from the 2020 election, and when I say most, I'm talking about over 80%, were all Trump supporters, possibly over 90%. But what's going to happen now is that Kash Patel, that cross-eyed weirdo, now has access to all of this stuff. Kash Patel, not exactly an honest guy. He's not going to find what Trump wants him to find. So what happens when you can't find the thing that your job depends on you finding? You fake it. You doctor it. You lie. That's what's going to happen. I'm not concerned that, oh my God, they're going to get in there and they're going to find all this fraud. I don't think that's going to happen. And if they did, okay, well, then they should, right? What I am afraid of is how they're going to doctor what they find. Or I should say, what they don't find. And they're going to make it seem as if, hey, look, Donald Trump was right all along. For 5 years, 6 years, he warned us. And we didn't listen. We dismissed it. And now here it all is. Oh, well, can we see it? No. No, I'm gonna keep it over here, maybe with the Epstein files that you also can't see. But it's there, and he was right. And therefore, we have to do something to fix that. So what is the thing to be done to fix it? Well, we've got midterms just a couple months away. That's not enough time to fix things. We need more time. So Congress, I need you, while the Republicans still have control, to vote to change the date. And yes, unfortunately, that is something that Congress does have the authority constitutionally to do. They can't change the manner or the way that states run their elections, but they can, and they do, set the date. So they can push it down the road. How far? That's going to be up to the Supreme Court, also controlled by the Republicans. This plot cannot exist with only Donald Trump. This will require all three Republican-controlled branches of the government working together to make it happen. And that's what is so terrifying about this. That's the big problem, is that he's got all the branches. He's got all the pieces in place that he needs. That's why they're doing it now. I mean, think about it. If this was something that the FBI could do or wanted to do or needed to do, they could have done it at any point in the last 365 days. They've had all that time. Why now? Because they wanted to see what the midterms were looking like. And right now it's looking like Republicans are going to get the worst beating they've ever gotten in their lives. So now we have to do it. Could have done it last February, March, April, May, whatever. Didn't, because we didn't think we'd be facing the scenario we're facing in the midterms, but now we are. So now the plan is in motion. Now we have to do it. That is what this is about. We're already witnessing this administration suppress American citizens. That's what the ICE raids are about. That's what the deployment of the National Guard throughout the country, that's what that's about. It's not actually about getting rid of crime. It's not actually about keeping anybody safe. It's about reminding you what he has at his disposal. It's about squashing dissent before it happens, keeping you compliant, keeping you in your place through fear and coercion. So now that he has that, now that he has done that, now as he has shown that, hey, you piss off the people trying to squash dissent, they could kill you. He wants more submission. So that way, when he does things like attempt to steal the election in any way, shape, or form, or postpone it, you're already compliant. You're already too afraid to go out there and speak out. There have been a lot of things that have happened in the last 12 months to put all of this in motion. And this is what we are finally seeing come together as the big picture. It's about stealing elections. It's about Republicans never losing power. It's about living in a fascist dictatorship, which is exactly what this is now. Let's go to some comments here in the chat. Roger Stevenson says, F this administration. We must win the midterms 2026 and 2028. The White House to send them all to prison. I agree. We may not have an election. If we do, the Democrats are a shoo-in at this point. That's a given. That's going to happen. But are we even going to get to the point where we have the elections? I don't know. He is going to use whatever they, concoct out of this Georgia stuff and say, look, I told you it can't be trusted. So now we're going to have to change everything to what I want it to be. It's a terrifying thing. D. Bellwether says, nationwide commerce boycott tomorrow. Send the message, buy nothing. Great point to remind everybody. Also, not just a commerce blackout. If you have the ability to call in without, fear of retribution or losing your job or losing income, that is also a thing. So tomorrow is almost not just a commerce boycott, but also a soft launch of a general strike. So whatever you can do, do it. That is what I'm going to say here. So thank you for reminding us of that. everybody needs to keep that in mind. Tomorrow, do not buy anything. If you can, call in. Everybody, it sounds like you're all getting sick. So, use that to your advantage the way you can. Thanks for fleshing out the data. I'm just a chat person. No problem. I appreciate it. Make calls to your representatives and Congress people. Definitely do that. So it's easy to find. I would call the local offices first. Those seem to get a little bit more agitated, right? Because it shows what the actual constituents are saying rather than call them at their DC offices, which is very easily, dismissible. So call the local offices first. Honestly, call both if you can, if you have time. So that's another part of it. A super chat here from Hunter Williams says, will the election likely happen? I don't know. I genuinely do not know at this point. Everything is happening fast. Everything is happening in the dumbest humanly possible ways. We've got Kash Patel, the witless wonder, running this shit. So I don't know. I really don't. Ninja Vestos says judges treating Trump with kid gloves during his criminal trials and scared Garland is the reason why the USA is here, sending support from the UK. That is absolutely correct. All of this could have been avoided had Merrick Garland done his job. Had the judges not been afraid of this weirdo, we wouldn't be in any of this situation right now. And unfortunately, we are. You know what other situation we're in? Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General, what's his name? Todd Blanche, said in a court filing this week that we cannot, even though you've asked for it, give you a date on when we'll finally comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We're over a month behind the deadline anyway. So, I mean, what's more time at this point, right? Pam Bondi told a federal judge this week, I'm not going to give you a timeline on when I, the Attorney General, am going to comply with the law. So if you needed any more evidence of how lawless this administration is, I think that's it. The top law enforcement official in the United States, Pam Bondi, says, I don't know when I'm going to comply with the law. So we don't get the Epstein files. Still. But don't worry, because they've got all of those attorneys in the Southern District of New York's office. They're all working on it. They even, and this is kind of funny, they took the attorneys that are working on the Maduro prosecution off that case so that they can also go through the Epstein files. So we can't even prosecute the guy that everybody forgot about because we've got to go through the files. And they said, the FBI said, there's like 300 gigabytes of data. 300 gigabytes. Now, 20 years ago, 300 gigabytes, it's a hell of a lot of stuff, right? These days, 300 gigabytes is not. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not. I mean, the video files that I record every day are 20 gigs a piece. So yeah, you've got videos in those files. And it's older videos, so, it's not going to have the same kind of compression and all of that. The files are going to be friggin' huge. That's not a lot of data, folks. So it's still taken them a year to go through this. But the big question is, why do you even have to go through it? Get them in a pile, print them out. I understand that would take a while, especially if you get printer issues like I do. It sucks some days, but print them out, turn them in, and say, see you later. There is nothing in those files that needs to be redacted. I'm sorry, but there's not. Well, we want to protect the names of the victims, these liars tell us. Almost all of them are public. They've done interviews on national television. And you're going to remove their names when they're out there telling us I was one of the victims? Sure, there are some that obviously have not been in there or have not been public. So get on your computer, do a quick find and replace, type in their name for the find, type in replace, a big black bar, and that's it. Or better yet, as I've also suggested, call them and say, hey, you're one of the victims in the files. Do you want us to redact your name or not? And if they say no, great. Just saved you a ton of work with a 3-second phone call. But they're not going through and redacting the names of the victims. They're looking for mentions of Trump. They're looking for mentions of crimes that Trump may have committed. They're looking for other very wealthy, powerful men in this country to take their names out of it as well, to the point where when we finally get these things, it's going to give us no information because they have taken it all out. Not because these people deserve to be protected, not because people could take it out of context, but because they don't want us to know who, what, where, why, and how. That's what this is about. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, while I support it, was written poorly. It should not have given the DOJ any authority whatsoever to redact anything at all. It should have been full and complete files with no redactions. It should have said with no redactions. So I believe that was a bit of a blunder. You know, in hindsight, obviously, it's easy to see that. I'm not trying to go after Kano or Massey. Obviously, they did a good job with this, but it could have been done better, which we now know. Maybe we didn't foresee it at the time, or they didn't, whatever. But they should have. I kind of feel like they should have. And so now we're in this quagmire. I mean, hell, we'll probably have a resolution of Venezuela before we get these damn Epstein files at this point. Trump has a better chance of acquiring all of Greenland than we do of getting these Epstein files in the next 3 months at this point. They haven't even released 1% of them. They're over a month behind. And Bondi is telling a federal judge, I don't even know if I'm ever going to finish this. Absolute ridiculous. Both parties been covering this up, so they in on it together. I don't know about that. I really don't think this is one of those both sides things. Could Democrats have released the files when they had the White House? Sure. Was the public demanding it at the time? No. I mean, hell, throughout the entire Obama years, aside from myself and Mike Papantonio, I was working at Ring of Fire with him. I don't know of anybody else that even covered this during the Obama years. We did. Those files are still over, or videos are still over on the Ring of Fire YouTube if you want to go look at them. But yeah, we did, but nobody else did because it wasn't a well-known thing. We covered it because we were, friends with the lawyer representing the victims who were suing after Epstein got the sweetheart deal. So yeah, nobody knew about it back then. During the Biden years, it had died off. We were coming off of COVID, all this other stuff. He should have released them in his final years. I'll give you that. But I don't think to the same degree Democrats have been involved in what we call the cover-up of it. I think they've just been lazy about it. So I would not put them on the same, pedestal on this issue. V-Man says, Farron, we may see the Snyderverse return to theaters in the next 3 years before the Epstein files get a release. It's possible. We may be all the way through all of the next Avengers movies as well before we get them. Maybe the Epstein files will return in Avengers Doomsday. I'm a Marvel guy, not a DC guy. So that's why I switched from your Snyderverse over to Marvel. I appreciate it, though, and I do agree. Fabrizio Reacts says, Farron, do you think we should just give up? There's no point anymore going on. I myself have epilepsy, and all this political nonsense is stressing me out. What to do? Do not ever give up. That is what they want you to do. They want you to give up. They want you to feel hopeless. They want you to feel like there is no solution to any of this. Persevere. And that's 1,000 times, million times easier to say than it is to do, isn't it? Just keep going. But we don't have a choice. We're not going to give up. Honestly, if the only thing that keeps you going is spite, like if you just want to have the attitude like, fuck them, I'm not going to give up because just fuck these guys, then do it that way. Like whatever it takes. I am tremendously motivated by spite. I really am. And sometimes when I feel like giving up and then I see these a-holes on conservative media or, social media say these horrible, stupid things and try to insult us and all that, it's like, you know what? I'm going to keep going just to keep pissing you off. So spite can be a hell of a motivator. So if you can't find any other reason, do it just to piss them off. Andrew Hager says, we can't give up, but Trump should. Now that I support. Let's move on real quick here. The turmoil in the Trump administration, the chaos, the civil war is getting more and more intense, and I love it. Kristi Noem came out and threw Stephen Miller under the bus this week. So Kristi Noem was asked by reporters like, hey, you came out, you said this guy, Alex Preddy, was an assassin. You said he was dangerous. You called him a domestic terrorist. What the hell? We now know, we've all seen the video from all the different angles. We know this is not true. What do you have to say, Kristi Noem? And she responded by saying, everything I've done at the direction of the president and Stephen. Throwing Stephen Miller right under that bus that she was already under. So it's more of dragging him down with her. But Stephen Miller's the guy calling the shots along with Donald Trump. And you can't go after him. So maybe you ought to go after this guy, Stevie boy. So Stephen Miller was asked by Axios like, hey, she just kind of threw you under the bus. And Miller said, any early comments were based on information sent to the White House through Customs and Border Patrol. So Miller turns it around, throws Noem right back under that bus like, hey, if we made any statements, it's because of the info we got from her government department. So she can say it's my fault all she wants, but I can only go based on what she says. You know what you two idiots also could have gone on? The video that was available online all over the place had already gone viral before any of you fucks came out and said those statements that you said, right? You could have just looked at that, saw a man pinned down on a sidewalk where two different officers opened fire on him. Like he was pinned, he was restrained, and then they executed him. So you didn't need to wait for the information coming out of your department or this department or Stephen's talking points over here. You could have just watched the video and said, oh, dear God, maybe I should not even issue a statement other than this is a tragedy and we're looking into it. Right? Sometimes less is more. Sometimes you don't have to go out there and slander a man whose body isn't even cold yet. But you guys didn't wait. I personally think both Noem and Miller should be under a bus or the bus. I'm not advocating violence against them in it by any means, but they should both be under the metaphorical bus at this point because they're both horrible, ghoulish, downright evil human beings. And they do not care one lick about the 9 people that ICE has killed this year. I know yesterday I said 6. I was wrong. It's 9 that they've killed. Not to even mention the dozens that have died in ICE custody. I'm talking about the people straight up killed. Before Renee Good, before Alex Preddy, 7 others had been killed. Countless others have been maimed and disfigured because of these ICE agents. losing their hearing, losing their sight, losing fingers. So this is not a one or two off thing. This is how they operate. It's their MO. And it's going to keep happening as long as these Trump murder gangs are out there on the streets. I have a lot of super chats here. I want to get to them. V-Man says, if you're going through hell, keep going, Churchill. Absolutely great advice. Scorpius ZA says, I am just loving the fact that even in deep red states, the 40 million bribe from Amazon MGM really isn't paying off. I love that. Neat Noodle says, notice there's absolutely no info available regarding the claim that an agent had their finger bitten off after Preddy shooting. Oh, I hadn't even heard that. So I don't know about the finger biting. Other than I do remember the finger biting from the, Obamacare town halls as that was going on. Some dude had his finger bitten off. That was crazy. But yeah, I hadn't heard about that. And yes, obviously there's not any credible information about that. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and file that under things that didn't happen. V-Man says, Kristi Noem embodying the famous Harry S. Truman sign, the buck stops everywhere but here. Yeah, all these little freaks right now are fighting to keep their jobs. Because to give them all credit, almost everyone made it through the first year. I didn't think that was going to happen. I really didn't think we would make it through with like 95% of the original people. You had Mike Waltz. He kind of took a fall for Hegseth's crap. But the fact that they've lasted this long is amazing. And I know Trump is getting antsy. He loves to fire people. That's literally his catchphrase. He wants to fire somebody. He wanted to fire Noem a month and a half ago. And now if he does it now, it looks like he's caving to public pressure. So now he can't. Even though now more than ever, he should. So they're in a horrible situation. He wants to fire Pam Bondi because she sucks so bad. She has failed at literally everything she has done. Everything. Even Merrick Garland got a few things right here and there. Pam Bondi can't even do that. Marco Rubio, I think his job is the safest of the safe. Pete Hegseth has pissed Trump off repeatedly. He's called him into the White House to scream at him for being such a crappy guy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., before all this, with Kristi Noem, was the least popular member of the administration, going from the most popular to the least popular. He did himself in with the whole Tylenol autism. So, yeah, he's cooked. But somebody's going to be fired soon. Trump is itching for it, and I think the public is too. We want to see the public firings, and do it on Truth Social. That just, adds a little bit of insult to the injury there. I think that's a great idea. Oh, I almost read this comment out loud and I can't. Bamboozled 1668. You almost got me. Almost read it. I appreciate it, but yeah. One more story today. As most people probably don't know, Donald Trump actually did a rally this week. He went to Iowa, very small town, very tiny venue, because he knows he can't pack them out like he used to. So he goes to Iowa, does a rally. There's not really footage floating around of it on the internet as there usually is. Everybody just kind of didn't know it was happening. But people did show up. Trump supporters showed up. And a couple of them, speaking to MS Now's Vaughn Hilliard, admitted, we're not happy with what this guy has done. We're not happy with the economy. We're not happy with the mass roundups of ICE. We don't like any of this. Here's what they said. This is Marcia and Michael, who asserted they voted for Trump, but now are having second thoughts. Asked if the immigrant roundups were what she expected, Marcia replied, not like they're doing, not like this, not like this. This is horrible, just horrible. I'm sick to my stomach. And then Michael was asked, does what you see make you uncomfortable? And Michael responded, yeah. I mean, I think anytime someone gets shot in the street, you should be uncomfortable and ask how we got to that point and what we can do to not get to that point again. It's happened twice, so something clearly isn't working. The rules are there, they need to be enforced, but can't be shooting people in the street either. Michael, I got news for you, buddy. How did we get here? You, motherfucker! You voted for the asshole! How did we get to this point? Who would have thought it is this bad? I don't know. Everybody that tried to warn you all of 2024 that things were going to be horrible. I like, right? I do like that they don't like what's happening, that they're admitting, wow, yeah, this guy is bad. But to act like you don't know how we got here, go look in the mirror, Mike. You and your vote did this to these people. Your vote killed not 2, 9 people in the streets of the United States of America. You know what? That's how we ought to frame this right now. It's not just Trump. The deaths of all 9 of those people, the blood is on the hands of the Trump voters. If you voted for Trump, you're partially to blame for those people being dead. If you voted for Trump, you're partially to blame for those people dying in ICE custody. That's what you did. You're responsible for Venezuela. You're responsible for all of our former European allies hating us right now. You did this to America. Now, you can atone for it. You can apologize profusely, and you can say, I won't do it again. I know I made a mistake. We're not going to hold it against you forever. If you show genuine remorse and learn from it. But if not, then yeah, wash your hands all you want. That blood's never going to come off. Listen, that's going to be it for today. We're about to undergo some pretty big changes in the studio today, and I really want to get to that. So, unfortunately, I am going to go ahead and end it. I know a little bit shorter than it's been the last few days, but some cool things happening. Honestly, you may not even notice. Maybe you will notice. But I will say that the crappy camera I am using for the live streams right now, this will be the last one where I use the crappy camera. So that ought to be fun. Anyway, take care of yourselves. I will see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central.